Welcome back, everybody, to the Just Talk Hoops podcast. We've gotten through 2 weeks of the NBA season, and we're back. We're back doing some stuff. We're back doing some predictions, stuff like that. We'll talk about this episode. We're going to talk about our Eastern Conference takeaways so far through 2 weeks. So every team in the Eastern Conference, what I think about them just off their first few games. You know, most of them have played around 7 games. So we'll do some takeaways from that, what I'm seeing, even though I haven't watched all the games, right? So these are pretty initial takeaways. And then we'll, of course, do our games of the week. Next week, we'll probably do our West Conference takeaways, so stay tuned for that. I just want to do the East Coast first because I feel like the West Coast is so competitive. It'll be interesting to see how it shakes out with a little more time. So that'll be what we're doing today. I don't know if it'll be a longer episode or a shorter episode. I probably think it would be a little shorter. The episodes recently have tended to be around like 45 minutes, so let me know if you prefer that over the hour. Drop it in the comments if you're watching on YouTube. Do you prefer that over the hour long episodes, or do you want it to go a little longer? I can definitely find some stuff to fill some more time. But yeah, so those are our takeaways. As always, drop a like, subscribe, etc., etc. I've currently got the Vince Carter Raptors jersey on. Since we're doing Eastern Conference teams, I decided to go with the Raptors because we will talk about them today. I'm starting to sort of run out of jerseys. We've done, how many episodes have we done on YouTube? A good number now, and I have a limited number of jerseys, but we will, I might have to tap into the team hoodies and team shirts and stuff, but and I'm sure more jerseys will come. Don't worry, I've still got some. It's not easy for me to run out of jerseys. I got 19 NBA jerseys, so don't worry about it. I'm sure you guys were worried. So anyway, we'll get right into it. Let me know in the comments, questions, comments, concerns. As always, drop, game of the week predictions, etc. And so we're going to start with the Atlantic Division of the Eastern Conference. We're just going to go up and work our way down. We're going to start with the Boston Celtics today, just because I think it's an interesting position that they're in. Because you look at them right now, I think the record is 3-4. Right, you gotta that's not terrible, right? You got to take that with a grain of salt though, because it's like you can't just look at records right now and be like, oh, they must be good or they must be decent, because you look at the teams they've beat. They beat the Sixers by 1, which I wasn't expecting. That was an impressive win for them. But then they beat the Pelicans, who have been not good, and they beat the Cavs, but the Cavs have been pretty shorthanded. We'll talk about them in a sec. And then they've lost to good teams, right? Like when they played the Knicks, Pistons, and Rockets, they've lost all of them. And it's not really their fault. Right, they got absolutely dismantled this offseason with when you combine the fact that they lost Jason Tatum. Right, they don't have him for most likely the whole season, and then you lose Drew Holiday, Al Horford, and Kristaps Porzingis. It's like you lose so much talent. What can you do this year besides maybe look for a higher draft pick? Right, this might be a lottery team just because they're missing so much of that talent. It's not really like, oh, they're just underperforming. There are some teams that are underperforming. We'll get to them, but the Celtics, it's not that case, right? Like they're a decent team in terms of talent, right? Jaylen Brown's a guy who can play really well. Obviously, guys like Peyton Pritchard has stepped up a little bit with Tatum being out. Derek White's solid. Anthony Simons has done okay, but he hasn't really moved me. Like he hasn't picked up the scoring slack of Tatum, right? Which obviously you can't expect him to be Jason Tatum, but he's only averaging around 14 right now, and it's like maybe you wish he was doing a little bit more. But you're starting Neemias Queta at the 5, and no disrespect to Queta, but that's not a starting caliber center, right? You don't have a team that is good enough to compete really at all. So the fact that they've gotten really any wins says a lot to, well, I think Joe Mazzulla is a really good coach, and they do have some talent, right? I don't want to completely underestimate this team, but they need Tatum back. Is my takeaway. Is they need Jason Tatum back. They need a center. My takeaway is next year we're gonna see the Celtics that we're used to seeing, but for this year, it's a dip, right? Like they were on top of the world, they've dipped because they missed so much talent because of those CBA rules. They just got absolutely screwed by those. Like it's difficult. It's difficult to come back and give a good season when you're missing most of your talent, right? I don't really think it's the fault of the Celtics, right? I don't think it's the fault of necessarily their management even. I think it's the fault of Well, you got unlucky, right? You got a championship out of it, but you got unlucky after that, right? So that's difficult. Moving on from the Celtics, though, the Sixers. Now, the Sixers are not in the same boat as the Celtics. The Sixers, there was a lot of questions about them coming into the season, right? They really underperformed last year. They missed the playoffs after they were supposed. Like I predicted them, I think, to be the second best team in the East, right? They were a lot was expected out of the Sixers last year, so they were like, oh, we need a lot. They brought in Paul George, and they had Joel Embiid, they had Tyrese Maxey, right? They had these guys who should have performed a little better, right? But then they get injured. They suffered a ton from injuries this year, and then this year so far, Paul George hasn't played at all. Jared McCain, who missed a lot of time last year due to injury, hasn't played at all. Joel Embiid has been limited, right? And you're like, well, they must not be that good, except for the fact that they're 4-1, because of the fact that Tyrese Maxey is currently averaging 35 and 9 assists per game. VJ Edgecombe's averaging over 25 and 5. Like he is, the two of them have completely switched the trajectory of this Sixers franchise. Right before it was, okay, you're older, you're looking to compete, but you're so injury prone that there's just nothing materializing. Now it's like you've got one of the most exciting young backcourts in the league. You've got a future all of a sudden. Plus guys like, Quentin Grimes off the bench. Now it's like, oh man, you've got a squad, right? Like all of a sudden you've got something to build on. And I think the most interesting thing about this is what happens to Joel Embiid, right? Because so far he's averaging 17 and 5, which isn't terrible. But then you look at guys like Maxey and Edgecombe, and they've been playing significantly better. When you watch the games, it's clear that Embiid's still a little slow. He's not at his level. He's struggling from that knee injury, right? Tyrese Maxey has been a superstar caliber player so far this season. VJ Edgecombe has looked like the best rookie in the world, right? Which, by the way, I tried to tell y'all that my award predictions podcast, I said I wouldn't be surprised if Edgecombe stole that Rookie of the Year award, and here we are. Embiid hasn't really fit. He's been decent. Don't get me wrong. Like he's been decent. He's had a few 20-point performances, and he's starting to kind of get back into that mode. But it's like he doesn't really fit the long-term plans of this team anymore, right? Because now you've got this exciting young backcourt. You've got this stuff to build on. You've got guys like Jared McCain and Quentin Grimes off the bench. Now, I know McCain's out, but, once he comes back, you've got that. Or you've got a guy like, I'm going to mess up this pronunciation, Adem Bona. Bona? I don't know. Bona? Is it Bona? Who, he looks like a decent, young big man. And, all of a sudden, it's like, well, do we need Embiid anymore? And if not, what happens? And he's still talented, but are you getting the value out of him that you'd hope for someone who's getting paid that much and is such a pivotal part of your franchise? It's like, I think maybe not. It's going to be interesting to see. But so far, my takeaway for the Sixers is just that backcourt is exciting. That backcourt's really good. I'm a big believer in that backcourt. I'm a big fan of that backcourt. I think that they're going to really create some issues down the line as long as that Sixers franchise can put enough talent around them to make something happen. Moving on, we're going to move on to the Toronto Raptors, right? That's why we're sporting the jersey today. For the Raptors, it's kind of been they're kind of back in that mediocrity tier, right? They've been shooting the three ball really, really well. They're currently third in the league in 3-point percentage. They've been shooting it really well as a team. They've been passing the ball well. Their offense overall has been decent, right? You look at those wing scorers. You've got some decent players, right? You've got some. Sorry if you can hear the background noise now. The heat just kicked on. Scotty Barnes and Brandon Ingram are both averaging over 20. RJ Barrett is near that 20-point per game mark. You've got three guys who can potentially light it up, right? RJ Barrett isn't quite to the level of those other two. Those other two are almost all-star level scorers, right? I'd say Scotty Barnes is all-star level, and then you look at but RJ Barrett still gives you some solid production, Jesus. And then you look at the three of them, and you're like, hey, that's a decent offensive core. Are they gonna win you championships? No, but they'll win you games, right? So they're decent. And Emmanuel Quickly is your point guard. Like that's a decent, point guard's a playmaker to get people the ball. But then you look at that defense, and it's not enough to keep up with the offense. Right? I'm not acting like this offense is incredible. I think they're middle of the pack in terms of offensive rating. Like they're okay, but the defense isn't enough for them to be middle of the pack team. It's more like it's dragging them down a little bit, and that's middle of the pack in the league, right? So they're middle of the pack in the East, but if they're in the West, this team's not going to do very well. And just so far, it's like they haven't done much, right? They lost, like they beat the Hawks, right? So that was their first win, I think, of the season, right? And then they beat the Cavs recently, but that was an extremely undermanned Cavs team. In between, they played 4 good teams, and none of those games were particularly close. And it's like they just don't have enough to keep up with those squads, despite those 3 decent scorers. So it's just like they're kind of just in a spot of mediocrity, right? Like they haven't blown us away. But it's like that's kind of what you expected from the Raptors. Like they shouldn't be too disappointed. This is kind of what they expected. So far, it's like the Celtics and the Raptors kind of both knew this was going to happen. The Sixers are very happy with their outcome. The Knicks are in a very interesting spot because the Knicks are currently 2-3, right? They've only played 5 games, which is less than some of these other teams. But they're in an interesting spot because they just brought in a new coach, right? And in a weaker Eastern Conference, they were looking to be a contender, right? They were looking to be a team that gets to the finals. Unfortunately, they've shown they have some holes in their roster, right? You look at this team, and every single one of their games has been decided by 10 points or less, which I think is interesting. But their defense, I think, just isn't enough, right? Because you look at guys like Josh Hart's a really decent defender. Mitchell Robinson, who just came back, he's a really good defender. We know that. OG Anunoby's a good defender. Mikal Bridges is a good defender. I feel like his defensive production has dipped a little bit in recent years, but he's still really, really solid. But because Jalen Brunson and Karl-Anthony Towns are so exploitable on the defensive end, it becomes difficult to make a good team defense when your point guard and your center are both not good defenders, right? So when you're looking at this and you're saying, okay, who's Jalen Brunson defending, and have they been able to switch him onto their best player as a mismatch? And then if they get to the rim, do we really trust Karl-Anthony Towns to protect the rim? Or if he's switched onto a perimeter player, do we really trust him? And the answer is no, we don't trust either of those guys on the defensive side. Then it's like now you're relying on your offense to completely make up for that, but their offense hasn't looked incredible just because, like, they're adapting to a new system, I think. Also, they've just missed some easy shots. I think that eventually, like, I do think this team will get it into the swing. Like, they'll get into the swing of things, and they'll look a lot better than they've looked in these past couple weeks. They've missed open looks. They're adjusting under Mike Brown. Right there, Jalen Brunson Mike Brown likes to run a fast-paced offense. Jalen Brunson isn't really used to running a fast-paced offense, and it's like when that defense isn't good and that offense is adjusting, they just don't look great. I do think they'll kick it into gear, but it's just been kind of a disappointing season for them so far. I think Knicks fans probably are a little disappointed, especially since they just lost to the Bulls. But we'll get to the Bulls. The Bulls are having themselves a year. And I mean, I just think it's gonna be interesting to see how they adapt, right? Like, does Mike Brown change his coaching style to adapt to Brunson? Does Brunson change his play style to adapt to Mike Brown? Can they figure out that defense, right? Do you potentially run Karl-Anthony Towns and Mitchell Robinson for more games? Try and kind of shore up that defense. I don't know. I think it'll be interesting to see how that team does, right? How that team can figure it out. I do still expect them to be one of the best teams in the East, though. It's only been 5 games. Like I said, like that's not enough of a sample size to really say, like, okay, this is a good or not a good team, right? The Nets, though, we can say with with a good degree of certainty. Let's go there. They're bad. They're not a good team, right? I knew this coming into the year. I am a Nets fan. I knew this coming into the year. They weren't going to be good, right? They are rebuilding. They are tanking, right? This is a really promising draft class that we're coming into. Guys like Boozer, guys like Dabansa, which is I think how you pronounce that. But they've got a really really solid chance to be one of those teams in that lottery, right? Well, they're definitely going to be in the lottery. Let me not act like we're not going to be in the lottery, right? They're going to be in the lottery. Now, will the lottery gods bless them? I don't know, seeing as we just saw the Mavs get Cooper Flag last year on like a, what was it, 1.8% chance, which still pisses me off, honestly. But this Nets team is bad, right? But especially on the defensive end, they're bad. They've looked absolutely horrendous on the defensive end. Nick Claxton is pretty much the only plus defender in the entirety of the starting lineup, which just makes it like everyone else is either okay or bad, which it's like you're just not going to win games like that. Their offense actually hasn't looked terrible, right? Because of the fact that, we know Cam Thomas is going to go get a bucket. We know Michael Porter Jr. is going to go get some buckets. We know guys, like, they've got some offense clicking for them just because they've got some guys who know what to do on the offensive end of the ball, especially especially when they make a run in the fourth quarter. Like, they've fought in fourth quarters. They've made something happen there. But it's not enough for me to really say, oh, this team, like, it's they're not good. They're not good. We know that. More, I'm watching the rookies, and so far 3 of them haven't really gotten quality minutes, right? They're playing in the G League, which I don't think is a bad idea. Get them kind of adjusted to NBA competition before just throwing them into the NBA. I do think the 2 that have played, Ben Saraf and Yegor Dioman, they've shown flashes but haven't shown a ton, right? Dioman so far. Actually, let's talk about Saraf first. He's started every game of the year so far. He's done some decent things on the playmaking side. I do think that he is a smart passer. He's still getting adjusted to playing the point guard position in the NBA, which is very difficult to do, especially as a really young guard. He's done. He hasn't shown a whole ton of scoring upside, but playmaking upside is there. Defensive upside is not there. He has not defended very well. But he's very young. We knew these guys were projects, right? We knew these guys were high upside, like high ceiling, low floor guys that are going to need to adapt. Yegor Dioman I don't even know, because so far he's only shot 3-pointers, which it's like, on one side, it's like, well, he came into the league and you're like scared about his 3-point shooting. Well, he's shown us he can shoot the 3 ball, but also, can he not get to the rim? Like, are we just we need to see him, do other things besides shoot the 3. I think I want to see him attack the rim. I want to see him playmaking. I want to see him, having the ball in his hands. I want to see him making shots for others. I want to see him making shots for himself besides 3-point shots. But I'm really happy to see him confident in his 3-point shooting abilities, right? That's really cool to see. And I feel like he will work on that other stuff. It's just going to be interesting to see, like, how far he can, like, what can he do with that 3-point ball. Can he now play like outside in, right? And can he get to the rim? Can he get to maybe some mid-range shots? Can he get at least like get inside and then kick it out, right? Something like that. Can he cut well off the ball? Like, I just want to see what can he do besides shoot the 3, especially since they didn't really draft him as a like 3-point only shooter, right? That wasn't why they drafted him. But we'll see. I mean, that's very, very early into these guys' career, right? They've only played, they've played 5 games. They're 0-5. Go Nats, baby. And it's just like, it's difficult to say, oh, well, this is disappointing, because it's like, this is what I think we all expected. We're going to move on to the Central Division now. Let's talk about the Chicago Bulls. Let's talk about it. What is going on in Chicago? What do they have in the water that is making this team 5-0? I'm not sure. It's an interesting brand of basketball that they're playing. First of all, shout out Josh Giddey. Josh Giddey's having himself a year. He's having a really, really good year so far. I don't know how, sustainable it is, but like against the Knicks in their win, he had 32, 10, and 9. That's ridiculous. And I don't know what shooting though. That was on 12 for 22 or 12 for 21 shooting, 4 for 8 from 3. This guy was it was a guy who everyone thought couldn't shoot for a long time, right? But like Giddey looks really good. But it's not just that, right? It's not like one guy's doing really well. It's the fact that they have a bunch of guys who can play a role, right? You've got Nikola Vucevic, who's had a really, really good season so far. You've got Trey Jones, who's done really well as a point guard besides Giddey, like when Giddey's off the court. Ayu Dosunmu has had a really good year so far. Modest Buzelis looks like a prime candidate for most improved player. Like this Bulls, like everyone's just kind of filling into the role that they need to fill for them to win games. It's been really impressive. They've done a really good job passing the ball. They've done a really good job just playing team basketball, right? I think that that's a big reason why they've won these games. They've done a good job executing down the stretch, and they've beat good teams. Like they've played the Pistons, the Magic, the Hawks, and the Knicks, all of whom I expected to be, and the Kings, but whatever. Like all of whom I expected to be playoff teams, and the Bulls have dismantled them. Right, and it hasn't been blowouts, but they've beat them, and they've looked good while doing it. And it's like, whoa, okay, Chicago. Like I was not expecting this at all. Now the question is it sustainable? Right. So far, it's been really good, and it's fun, but is it sustainable? I don't really think so. Right. I think that they will dip at some point. Right. They will at some point struggle because this idea, like I think right now teams aren't used to playing against them, but once teams figure out what the Bulls are trying to do, I think they will figure out how to combat it. I don't think that it's going to be sustainable, but it is fun for now. Also, could we get a Josh Giddey All-Star year? I'm just throwing it out there, right? He's looked really good so far. Shout out to the Bulls, man. They've done really, really well. They should be really impressed. Their fans should be really happy with this. They're overachieving for sure. And they're the underdog of the year right now. Right now, it's been the most surprising team. I've been really impressed with them. On the other side of things, we'll move on to the Indiana Pacers. Pacers are in a difficult spot, right? It's similar to the Celtics where you come into this year, you're like, okay, we know we're going to be missing Halliburton. We know that we lost Turner, right? We know that maybe we're not going to be as good as we were last year. I mean, we're almost definitely not going to be as good as we were last year. And then T.J. McConnell's out for the start of the year, and Andrew Nembhard goes out in the first game of the season. And now you have no playmaking at all. Like, there's just nobody to make plays for others. Now, you look at that team, you've still got some really decent guys, right? You've still got some talent. Pascal Siakam's having a really solid year because he's that guy for them this year. So far, Benedict Mathurin he's only played 2 games, but in those 2 games, he's looked really good. You look at guys like Quentin Jackson had a really good game last night. Aaron Nesmith has stepped up, right? And it's like, okay, so you've got talent here. You just don't have someone to get the ball to this talent. And so it's difficult to win games when it's like, well, you're missing all your point guards and Benedict Mathurin for a good number of games now. Sorry. Get a little rasp to me now. I've been talking for like 20 minutes. But I think they should take a lot of, I don't know exactly how to say this, but they should feel very good about their win against the Warriors last night, right? They were down by a good bit, and then they did that Pacers thing where all of a sudden, with 4 minutes left in the game, the Pacers start hitting their shots, and you're like, uh-oh. It's not just Halliburton that does this. Remember, like last year in the playoffs, it was like, it's Carlisle, it's Siakam, it's everyone on that team, it's everyone, like it's Aaron Nesmith, it's all these guys, and they played really, really solidly, and Quentin Jackson had himself a night, Aaron Nesmith had 31. It's like, all of a sudden, you look at this team, and you're like, they might have something, right? Now, we know that last year, they had, like, I don't know exactly what to make of this team because they're 1-5, but they're so much better than 1-5, right? They're just missing point guards. We know last year they had something special. We know they've still got a lot of that talent, and now it's like, if they can get Nembhard back, if they can get McConnell back, obviously Halliburton's out for too long for me to really say that realistically, But if they can get those guys back, all of a sudden it's like, this team might do something. They might do something. And I don't know. I just think that they're really promising. Like they're so well coached and they're so well managed, and they're just such a good team. Like they are a team that plays so well together, and it's like I just think you can't give up on the Pacers quite yet. And are they going to contend this year? No, but next year they're going to be scary. Next year they're going to be scary. Moving on, we've got the Cavs. Speaking of injuries, with the Pacers, the Cavs have been plagued by injuries so far. Right now they're only 3-3, which is disappointing as when you look at how they performed the offseason or in the regular season last year, not the offseason. But Donovan Mitchell has missed some time. Darius Garland obviously hasn't played yet this year. Jared Allen is questionable. Like he's missed some time, or just one game. Now he's questionable, so it's like he hasn't missed too much. So far, it's been just Mobley, and Mobley he's definitely improved on the offensive end, but he's not good enough on offense yet to make up for Donovan Mitchell and Darius Garland missing games. I think so far they should be happy with what they've seen out of Jalen Tyson, though. He's looked really good. I think that the numbers don't show it, but he's been really, really solid for them. It's just they're off to a rough start. Obviously, I think a big part of that is the injuries, but I think similar to the Knicks, you still feel confident in this team's ability to get out there, be a contending team in this Eastern Conference. And there's not a whole lot to say. It's kind of just injuries are hurting them right now, but they'll probably be back, right? They've still got talent. They've still got Kenny Atkinson, who's a coach that I really believe in, and they should be really decent. The Pistons. Now the defense looks really solid for the Pistons, right? We know they have defensive talent. We know they've got Asar Thompson, who's one of the best defensive perimeter defenders in the league, I should say, and so far, they've gotten off to a 4-2 start. They've looked really solid. They've won their past two games by big margins. They did lose to the Cavs, but they squeaked out a couple close wins before that. They've looked pretty solid. Their offense is a little shaky at times, right? I think that they're starting to get there, but their offense has looked a little shaky. Cade so far hasn't been the most efficient. Actually, I should say he hasn't been really efficient at all. I think he will get there, right? We saw how good Cade Cunningham was last year. I think that he will come back and he will, he'll get back on track to being exactly the type of player we know he can be. Jalen Duren had 33 last night. Their offense is starting to click a little bit more. Once they can get that offense to really click, then they should be really scary. That defense, like I said, they're really solid. They've got talent, guys like Jalen Duren, Asar Thompson, guys I'm really high on. Every team is going to have some some struggles to start the year, and for them, it's just been a little bit on the offensive side of the ball. It's been in getting Cade Cunningham to look like his normal self. But if they can figure that out, which I think they can, I believe in this team, then they should be really good. And I think that the Pistons are a team that people should look out for, honestly. They're gritty. They play hard. They're annoying to play against, it seems. And I really believe in this team. I think that they could, I honestly think that this Central Division has looked really contested so far because the Bulls have gotten off to a great start. Like I said, you can't sleep on the Pacers. The Cavs are, they're off to a somewhat rough start, but they're still going to be really great once they can get past those injuries. And the Pistons are looking really good. And the last team in the division, the Bucks, they look really good as well, right? You look at that team, Giannis is still that dude. We've known this, right? Giannis is one of the best players in the world, top 3 player in the world for sure. So far, he's performed like maybe a top 1 player in the world so far this year. But the rest of the squad has also done a really good job stepping up. I've been really impressed with the Bucks' ability to win game. They were missing Giannis in their last game too against the Warriors. I believe that wasn't their last game. Sorry, their last game they lost to the Kings, but they were missing Giannis in their game against the Warriors, who got off to a really strong start, but since then have kind of faltered. And all of a sudden, it's like this supporting cast isn't as bad as we thought, right? You look at that team, obviously Giannis is the main part of that, but Ryan Rollins has performed extremely well. Cole Anthony has looked really solid since getting there. AJ Green has shot the ball extremely efficiently. Guys like Miles Turner, Gary Trent Jr., those are solid role players. And it's like, I think that actually Doc Rivers has done a really good job coaching so far this year. I think that he's done a good job trusting his young talent. I think that young talent has stepped up to fill that role, right? Guys like Ryan Rollins, who we saw not get a huge role in Golden State, and now he dropped 30 against Golden State. And it's like, okay, you've got guys, right? You've got talented players, and it's just like that team in a weak Eastern Conference, that team could contend. Like if they were in the West, I think maybe it would be more difficult for them to really do anything. But in the man, there it is again. In the weak Eastern Conference, it's like this team could certainly contend. This team could certainly do something, and especially since like, how do you stop Giannis? Like, what team can stop Giannis? I don't know if there's an answer to that. Right now, they're 4-2. They're looking good, and I don't know how much they'll slow down. Like, I think I still would take a number of teams over them in the league for sure, but like, it is going to be difficult. Like when you still got Giannis and now the rest of that supporting cast is really performing, it's like, well, they might have something going. We'll move on to the Southeast here. And I mean, that Central Division is so contested. That Central Division is really contested. It's actually going to be really interesting to see like what they can do, who comes out of that, right? Obviously, a few of them struggling with injuries right now, but if they were all healthy, that's a fun division to watch. Southeast. So we'll start with the Hawks. I was really high on the Hawks this offseason because of the fact that they made some really good moves. I was really happy with their roster moves. They've started to pick it up a little bit, right? They just did really well against the Pacers. They beat the Nets, but like let's be fair, everyone beats the Nets. They lost to the Thunder and the Bulls, but like the Thunder and the Bulls, everyone loses to the Thunder and the Bulls. You know what happens. So far, Trey and Dyson Daniels have been disappointing. I think Trey has kind of been lacking on the scoring end a little bit, and honestly on the playmaking end too. Like he hasn't put up the assist numbers that we would normally expect of him. Why did I say expect? But he's been somewhat disappointing. Dyson Daniels has been disappointing on the offensive side of the ball. So when that backcourt was playing so well last year, now it's like it kind of hurts to see them kind of take a step back. But Jalen Johnson has looked really good. I love Jalen Johnson. I think he's a really, really talented player. Onyeka Okongwu has really performed well. And Nickeil Alexander-Walker, who they just brought in, has looked really good. He's looked better than I thought he would on the offensive side of the ball. I know he's a decent offensive player, but I think a big reason they brought him in was that defense. But he's performed well. Those guys have all performed well. It's like if they can get Daniels and Trey to really step it up, then I think they could make some stuff happen and be a really, really scary team. I think, so far Porzingis has been okay. He's missed a couple of games due to like flu-like symptoms, stuff like that. But I think that once he can really get going, and like once Trey and Dyson can get going, that team should make carve out a playoff contending spot for themselves in the East. Moving on from them, we've got the Heat. The Heat have been surprisingly good. I've been surprisingly happy with the Heat. I think that I still kind of predict them to be in that play-in range, right? That's where they've been for years. I don't see that changing. But Bam has had a really solid year this year. I was kind of disappointed with Bam's production last year. I thought that maybe his offensive game would grow a little bit, especially once Jimmy left. I was like, okay, I think Bam's going to look solid on the offensive end, but he hasn't really, which has been disappointing. I think like last year I was not super happy with Bam's production, but this year it's been like, hey man, he's done really well. Like he's done really, really well. I can't be mad at that at all. He's averaging over 20 right now, and without Tyler Hero, he's been a big part of that offense. Another person who's been a big part of that offense. So far, Norm Powell has looked really good for them. I don't know how, reliable their style of offense, which is so much isolation, is going to be for the rest of the year. But so far, their defense has performed really well, which once again, that's part of that is Bam being really good. And the guys like Norm Powell Bam, Jaime Jaquez has looked decent. Like them stepping up and really filling some of those gaps on the offensive end has made this team look decent. Now I still don't predict them to be much better in the play-in, right? I think they still look like just a play-in team, but once Tyler Hero comes back, it's like maybe this team could do a little something, right? They could at least be a team that you don't really want to play because if Norm Powell, Tyler Hero, and Bam go off, it's like, how do we defend that? And plus, they've got a decent defense. Like they could, I feel like they're kind of a muck it up team, right? Like even if a team is on a hot streak and then they go play the Heat, sometimes like the Heat might just mess things up for them. But I think they've looked. I've been pleasantly surprised with how the Heat have looked. We'll go to the other Florida team here. We'll go to the Orlando Magic. The Magic are the opposite from the Heat in terms of I've been disappointed by the Orlando Magic. Honestly, they haven't really moved me. They haven't especially I've been disappointed by their defense. Right, they've played 7 games so far. They're 3-4 in those 7 games. Their defense hasn't looked like last year. They were the second best defense in the world, in the league, right, behind just the Thunder, who were historically great, right? And now it's like their defense doesn't look as great. They don't look as bought in. They don't look as as I don't even know. Like they don't look as great on the defensive end. Now I do think that will step up. Like I think they'll figure it out. I think that defense will get back to being top 10 status, maybe top 5 status, but they don't look like that same top 2 defense. Plus that 3-point shooting for that team is still sort of an issue. Paolo has underperformed so far. He hasn't shot the 3 ball at all well himself, and then he's someone who likes to like sometimes he shoots a little too many threes. I'm like, dude, get to the rim. Like he wants to be a 3-point shooter, and it's like you haven't been shooting the ball well this year. They're one. I mean, like they did win their game against the Wizards this past game. Now the Wizards are not exactly a team that you're like, yes, we beat the Wizards. But Paolo and Franz, like they're your stars. I think that they need to step it up a little bit. I do think Franz has maybe looked a little better than Paolo this year, which is interesting. But I think if those guys could figure out and that defense could get better, then they'll be, they'll be fine. Like they'll be good. One upside for them has been Tristan da Silva has looked really good. But they need a little bit more from their stars, from their defense, from the things that like make this team the team that they are. They need those guys to pick it up a little bit more. Going on, we'll talk about the Wizards since we just talked about them. They're still not good, right? They're still not good, but I do think they've had some really promising aspects that Wizards fans should be happy about. First of all, Keyshawn George has looked great. He's looked really good. They should feel really happy about him. His offense has looked significantly better than last year. Not only is he putting up better scoring numbers, but he's also putting up better scoring efficiency. He's shot the 3 ball pretty well. And it's like, okay, now you've got your guy, right? You've got your guy now performing better than he's performed in the past, right? Bilal coming back is going to be really good for them. I'm a big fan of Bilal Coulibaly's game. I'm a fan of some of these younger Wizards players. Like I'm a fan of the upside of some of these guys. I'm a fan of who they are as players. And now it's like, can they make something out of it this year, or are we going to have to wait a couple more years? It looks like they're still going to have to rebuild for a couple more years, but guys like Sar performing, guys like Bilal performing, guys like Keyshawn performing, it's like, okay, you've got something you can build on. You got something, like it's not like, oh, we don't know who's that guy. Like you know who your guys are. Build on them, bring on some more talent, and you should look decent, at least in a few years, right? Last team, the Hornets. The Hornets have also been pleasantly surprising. They're in the same vein as the Heat, sort of. Fast-paced offense made them deadly, right? They're fast-paced. They like to run it. We know LaMelo Ball is a guy who really likes to operate in the fast break. They've got a lot of guys around him who like to do the same. They're deadly on offense because they're so fast, because they want to beat you on the break, because they're doing those things. Unfortunately, their defense cannot keep up at all. Their defense is not very good. They've been starting Kalkbrenner, who I think has been decent, honestly. I don't see him becoming much, but he's been decent so far this season. But they just don't have Like he's got the size to do decent on the defensive side of the ball, but besides him, there's not a whole lot of defensive talent on that team. Um, like and a fast-paced, fun, fast-break offense is not enough to say, oh well, we can have a terrible defense and it'll be fine. Like no, they're not good enough on defense to really move me much. I still think they can maybe make a play and push, but I still would predict them to miss the playoffs. This Southeast division is interesting because the Magic, Heat, and Hawks are three teams that I'm like, their ceiling is making the playoffs, but they also they've looked okay. Like all three of those teams have looked okay. Some of them were expecting to look a little bit better, but they've all looked okay. And it's like, what do we make out of those teams? Like which one of them is going to kick it into gear and kind of take over this division, right? For the Central, we'll go back to the other divisions. For the Central Division, they're all competitive. They're all fighting right now. The Pacers, record wise, aren't really in that debate, but we know what the Pacers can do, and it just feels wrong to count them out. And then the Atlantic, you've got some teams that are way up there and some teams that are way down here. The Sixers have looked really good. The Knicks will get there, I think. The Raptors are not. The Nets are not. The Celtics are in between, where it's like they've got more talent than the Raptors and Nets, but they've also got more weaknesses than those good teams. But those are my Eastern Conference takeaways. I think obviously it's a little early to really jump to any huge conclusions, which is why I wasn't like, oh, this team's winning the championship. I'm just looking at teams that I think can be more competitive, can be a little less, will be a little less competitive. It'll be interesting to see. Definitely something to keep an eye on. We'll do the Western Conference next week, like I said. For the time being, though, we're going to go on to those games of the week. So last week we had a great week. We ended up going 6-1 last week, which brings our total record up to 9-3 for the season. Our record is 9-3. Our total record is now going to be 44-28. The only one we lost was I predicted the Sixers to beat the Celtics, and the Celtics won by 1 point. And it's like, okay, really. But everything else, I felt, it was 6-1, 6-1. Come on. Don't play with me now. Now we've got a whole new week of games to do. So today's game, this Sunday, I've got the rematch of the Bulls-Knicks. Obviously, the Knicks lost to the Bulls in the last game. The Bulls have looked really good. I think this is where the Bulls' Cinderella run gets, halted a little bit. It doesn't get stopped. It's not like, oh, now the Bulls are going to lose every game. Just they hit a bump in the road. I'm saying the Knicks win this one. Tomorrow on Monday, we've got what do we have? We've got the Mavs going to Houston to play the Rockets. I'm taking the Rockets. Obviously, the Mavs, Anthony Davis just went out with an injury, which really hurts them. Cooper Flagg so far has been decent. D'Angelo Russell. There are some guys there. Max Christie's been decent. There's not enough talent there for me to say they're beating the Rockets. Give me the Rockets. Who have really picked it up since starting 0-2. They've won their last 3 by 18 or more. Now, to be fair, they've played the Nets, Raptors, and Celtics, but still, they're starting to find their groove. I think they're going to beat the Mavericks. On Tuesday, we've got the Magic and the Hawks playing against each other, a little division rivalry there. That's a difficult one to predict. Obviously, like I said, it's been kind of disappointing for both those teams. I thought both of them would be a little bit better. I am, however, going to take the Orlando Magic. I do expect, obviously Trae Young has been dealing with some injuries, which definitely hurts the Hawks. Plus, I do expect that defense to kind of pick it up a little bit here and maybe make things difficult for the Hawks to play the brand of basketball they want to play. I'm taking the Magic there. On Wednesday, we've got, so for those of you who were here last year, you know that I go to a decent number of games, and when I go to a game, that is the game of the week, or game of the day for the week, you know what I mean. And so me and my dad, we get like a quarter season package. We go to a good number of games, and then of course, I live in Denver, so it's Nuggets games. And then of course it's, when it's when the Nets come to Denver, I got to go to that one. I'm the only Nets fan there, and then I watch us lose by 25. Love being a Nets fan, baby. So that will be the game of the day, and I normally pick the Nuggets to win. So on Wednesday, because the reason I say that is because I'm going to the Heat Nuggets game. I'm actually going to 2 games this week, which is weird because like the quarter season package just was like, here, you get the 5th and the 7th, which I was like, I'm chill with that. But we've got Heat going to play the Nuggets. I'm taking the Nuggets partially because I'm going to be there. I'm the best fan there. I'm the 6th man. And partially because I just think the Nuggets are significantly better than the Heat. I know the Heat have looked decent this year, and I do expect like Norman Powell might be able to do something against a weaker perimeter Nuggets defense, but this Nuggets team is good. And they've got Nikola Jokic, and they've got a good bench now, which is terrifying. We'll talk some more about the Nuggets next week once we do our takeaways. Don't you worry. Thursday, there's only one game. It's Clippers-Suns. I'm taking the Clippers. Clippers so far have been okay. I'm trying to kind of stray away from talking too much about the West Coast teams just because I want to do that next week. Clippers have been okay. They haven't really done great things, but they are, I think, better than the Phoenix Suns, especially since Kawhi has started to really pick it up. On Friday, I'm also going to that game. It's Warriors-Nuggets. The Warriors start off really hot. They did beat the Nuggets earlier in the year, but since then, the Warriors have cooled down a little bit, and the Nuggets, I think, are starting to heat up. I think I expect the Nuggets. I don't expect the Warriors to go up 2-0 in the series against the Nuggets. I'm taking the Denver Nuggets in that one as well. Plus, like I said, I'm going to be there. Saturday, we've got the Bulls going to play the Cavs. This is the second Bulls game of the week. I figured I didn't give them any games of the week for the first 2 weeks because I didn't expect them to be good, but here they are. So shout out to them. I'm going to take the Cavs here, though. Like I said, I think the Bulls are just going to slow down a little bit, and if the Cavs can be healthy, I'm waiting one more week before I can say, okay, the Bulls are legit. I'm waiting a little bit more. I tend to wait on teams before I say they're really good, before I can say they've made the jump. So, hey, Bulls, if I'm underestimating you, I'm sorry. Right now, I just don't feel comfortable in putting them above the Cavs and the Knicks, who I said were going to be the best 2 teams in the East this year. But that is everything we've got for today. Once again, drop your games of the week in the comments. Drop your predictions for those, and maybe I'll give someone a prize. If you drop your games of the week and you win more than me, like you have more wins than me, so you don't have to do it every week. Like you don't have to do it every week, and it's not based off percentage. So you can't have 1 week where you go 7 for 7 and then say, but if you win more games than me total in the year, and I can confirm it, I will buy you I will buy one person who wins more games than me, the person who wins the most, I will buy them a Nikola Jokic Nuggets jersey. I'll do it. Or I'll buy them a Nets jersey. And then it's like, well, you get a jersey, but it's a Nets jersey. You want to have a Nets jersey? I do. I have 6. Do I have 6? How many do I have? It might be 6. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope you guys agree with some of my takes. If not, let me know in the comments. Drop what you think about these teams. If you're a fan of one of these teams, like I said earlier, I haven't watched every game of these teams, right? I'm doing this based off of what I've watched, what the stat sheet says, et cetera, et cetera. So if you have a different takeaway than me because you've watched more ball, then drop it. Drop it in the comments. Let me know. Let me know where I'm missing out. I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope you guys have a great week. I hope you guys enjoy the games. And I will see you next week on the Just Talk Hoops podcast.